Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, the last Rebel's Edge of the week. Pete Najarian and I will be breaking down for you exactly what's going on as SpaceX bangs down to its IPO price, but can't really get through it, at least not yet. And we'll have the 411 for you on SK Hynix, which seems to be the gift to the bears that keeps on giving. We'll have all that on today's Rebel's Edge. Welcome back. So that indeed is Pete Najarian, the legend.
In his own mind.
Who's going on to see a bunch of our former teammates and friends, unfortunately, though, at a funeral today. But, unfortunately, Pete, it's what happens to the survivors. You get to see and say goodbye to your friends, but it'll also be a bit of a reunion, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guarantee you there's going to be some tears, but also a lot of laughs. So, you get a little bit of both, especially, graduating in 1981. You're going back a ways. So, yeah, some of these guys haven't seen since 1981. So that part will be the good part for sure.
Well, and Pete, when you and I were out in Vegas, we went out to a school that I believe, I'm pretty sure about this, folks, Dana White put up a significant amount of money, probably with other generous people, to get Faith Lutheran on the map. And that's a whole different high school experience, Pete, than you and I had, because Faith Lutheran, folks, looks more like a college campus.
Oh, yeah.
It's got multiple buildings, around a quad of sorts. It's got state championships hanging on the wall. We had those at Central. But the football field, AstroTurf, lots of scoreboard action, and in the gym and so forth, again, state of the art, everything. Whereas our school, where Pete and I played, we were two of the only white kids on the team. They bussed for desegregation, folks. So most of the people that Pete will be seeing, not all, but I bet most of the people that you see today, Pete, at the funeral will be our friends, our black friends from basketball, football, even hockey, because we had great track teams, great football teams, great basketball teams, not so great hockey. I wonder why.
I'll tell you, you're 100% right, and I'll just give one quick story for people just to really fully understand who we were at Central High. And Prince and all those guys, musicians everywhere. I mean, that was fantastic. Our scoreboard didn't exist. We had literally, John, a plywood thing, and you had little numbers that you slid into it. And the longer part of the story, I won't go there, but we did not have a 7, which is kind of an interesting number not to have when you're playing football. So 7 seemed to be a number. If you get a score and get 6, you get an extra point. There's 7. That seems to be kind of something that normally would happen. But anyway, that's how our high school looked.
And boy, we put out, other than Pete, folks. I mean, I played at a few schools, but Pete Division I football, Calvin Anderson Division I football. Was he also Nebraska, Pete?
He was.
Because we had a real pipeline to Nebraska, folks. Yeah. We had a number 1 and a number 2 pick in the defensive backfield that both played at Nebraska and then went on to play at the Saints, I think, Pete, or something like that.
But I think, John, in our era, over 20 guys, so you were 75, I was 81, there were over 20 guys of that era that made it into the NFL. So that gives you a pretty good idea of how, we had some athletes there for sure.
Well, and that's with a team also, folks, last bit about this, but that's with a team that might have had 35 or 40 people on the football team in total. That's freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Okay.
All of that. The varsity, if you will, was probably more like 27.
Yeah. On a good day. If everybody showed up.
Played had like 130. They'd be up and down the sideline with people, they'd have third and fourth string going through, pregame and everything. And we're sitting there going, we get on the field and Paul Mitchell lights them up with a touchdown, like, right away, and or Marcellus Granberry runs up and down the field for a touchdown. They couldn't play with us, but they could sure look good versus us. And we had the worst uniforms. I think our pants, Pete, were satin and something else, which is great in the summertime. And the wool jerseys also great in the summertime. Everybody else is in mesh. And when it gets cold, then they have the thicker jerseys. We only had the ones.
We didn't even have water till our mother and father donated a water jug for the team. But that's all good.
Yep, it's all good. But yeah, it was more on that later, folks, about that like SAC summit and all that fun stuff. We'll cover that next week.
Yep.
But Pete, macro today, the Nikkei dropped almost 3% overnight. The NASDAQ came in with a lot of pressure last night from, once again, Hynix, SK Hynix, which debuted on the NASDAQ as an ADR, but that company's been around a bit, Pete, and pressure is on a lot of those memory names because of SK Hynix getting hit again, 9% over in Korea.
Yeah, that's one of many. I think that's number one. That's why you led with it. But I'll also say this: Trump's kind of back with these tariffs, John, talking about 25% for Brazil. That's a little bit of an issue. The price of crude has gone up once again because what's going on with the Strait is still an issue, and crude is back up above 80. So there's a lot of things kind of playing around within the market itself. And you know what? You take a look at the chips and you look at the SMH, it was down 2% yesterday. So there's a lot going on, John. There's no doubt about that. So we'll be keeping people upgraded on what the macro side of thing is. But I mean, that's what it looks like, at least as of right now, for sure.
Well, and I'll throw out, Pete, as we go to VIX next, I'll say all the headlines, all everybody wants to do is basically crap all over Elon Musk because, he's only, the Einstein of this era. Whether you want to give him credit or not, folks, what he's done is absolutely amazing. And so if SpaceX even trades down a little, Pete, the headlines are SpaceX back to the IPO price. And it's like, okay, but how much did Facebook fall below its IPO price?
Right.
And they were loath to run those headlines. But if Elon, who's exactly at 135 right now, Pete, if Elon's stock, SpaceX, SPCX, trades down to 130, oh my gosh, it drops all the way back down to here. Okay, let's give it some time. I know there's lockups that are coming and all the rest, but let's maybe talk about something other than a stock that's unchanged or down 1% on the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you got for VIX, Pete?
Yeah, people do get caught up in that, John. I'll just say this: the VIX, not that volatile itself. I mean, we're talking about a fairly tight range. Looking at something like, call it 1575 up to 1650. Right now, I think we're sitting, as that shows, right around 16 itself. So despite the fact of what we're seeing in the NASDAQ and a pretty decent sell there, it's interesting to see where the VIX itself is, and you look at the S&P 500, makes total sense. I mean, it should even be lower, quite frankly, John. But you know what? It's not going to be for now, just because of all the outside noise that's out there. And that's going to change things. And obviously, like we were just talking about, some of those big macro things are going to be influential for sure. But as of right now, 16 seems to be where we're getting caught, and it's getting tighter and tighter each day, it seems like.
And then we've got the VXN, Pete, which tracks the volatility in the NASDAQ, and it's up slightly. It's at 2605, but it's down from Monday's high, which was, I think, right around, I'm looking at it now, Pete, 2758, I think, was the high on Monday. Mm-hmm. So we're down from that, despite the fact that the NASDAQ's down 1% today. And again, the square root of 256, which is presently the number of trading days in the year, that'll change when we go to more of a long dated, 6 days a week of trading and so forth. But right now, 256 days, square root of that is 16. That's why a 1% move is a 16, folks.
Yeah.
So that's where we are there, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hit the basically prediction markets, Pete, because of course we do have FIFA and the prediction markets for the World Cup winner after Messi basically put the team on his shoulders again yesterday, Pete.
Again.
The guy is amazing. And everybody who actually watches soccer knows that. Some people say, oh, Ronaldo. He's a great player. Mbappe is a great player. I am not an expert. I'm just saying I know who some of the biggest players are in that sport. Mm-hmm. And the players on Spain are going to have something to say about whether or not Messi can hoist another trophy, right, Pete?
Absolutely. And you look at those numbers. I mean, Spain, 58%. Here's Argentina at 42%. So it's going to be interesting, John. I'm going to call him the GOAT, just because the guy's involved, it seems like, in some way. And the numbers that he puts up, I mean, it's an assist or it's an actual goal himself or whatever. It's just amazing how he's always that guy, right? He just seems to be that guy. So because of that, I got to tell you, I'd go with Argentina just because we haven't seen any reason really to go away from Argentina at this point in time. And he really is truly, I think, and we're going to have a discussion about this when we get to the sports about, well, where does he really stand in this world or whatever, in the world, not just soccer? I think that'll be a fun discussion. But Argentina, they're always going to be in a game if that guy's part of the team.
Oh, yeah. And Pete, our friend, Derek Stevens, the owner of Circa, he and his brother, Greg, I don't want to leave you out, Greg, but they own Circa, they own D, and they own the Golden Gate Casino. Yeah. And they have the biggest sports book in the world, both indoors and outdoors.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But when you look at this, folks, and you see how much is wagered, for instance, on the World Cup, when you see $4 billion, for instance, that's nothing. And the reason I say that's nothing is that's poly market, that's prediction markets, which have kind of wormed their way into casino gaming for sports books and things like that. I think they might get called out on that pretty soon, Pete. But in the meantime, to give you an idea that that's just the tip of the iceberg, casinos like Circa, like Caesars and so forth, have already seen over $50 billion.
With a B.
Yeah. So again, just like with an iceberg that most of it's below the waterline, Pete, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, that $4 billion. The real big monster is the $50 billion that is below the waterline. So, and I'm sure more will be wagered as we get closer to the finals, which are now heading our way. All right. Let's talk, Pete, about Abbott Labs, because they came out today. Strong Q2 earnings results. Anytime you have that and you raise guidance, you're going to have a good day. And Abbott, ABT, is having a good day.
They are. They're having a great day. Up. Last I looked, it was up about 12%, John. Year to date, the stock is still down, but nonetheless, it's great that it had the opportunity to make this kind of a run that it's made. I mean, but for all the right reasons. And it's why you and I have highlighted the idea, John, that, hey, look, earnings have been saving these markets when people are wanting to get in there and be sellers. And what do I mean by that? Well, why is Abbott up 12% today? Well, they beat on their earnings. They beat it pretty good. They beat on their revenue. They beat that pretty good. They raised their guidance. That's not such a bad thing. Their outlook is looking pretty strong for what they're going to be able to do in terms of their earnings going forward. And you know what? In May, not that long ago, this was an $82 stock that's now trading. It got up as high as 102. So it's somewhere, call it 98 or 99 up to 102. It's a pretty nice day, John. And these guys, I think, are just extended what we're talking about, which is earnings season has been not only a help, but these guys are crushing it right now.
Yeah, well, truly they are, Pete. Abbott doing a lot of things right and making a strong move to the upside today.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk for a moment, Pete, about UnitedHealth, because UNH is one of those Minnesota companies that Pete loves to tout, and for good reason. I mean, they deserve the tout. They are just astronomically, he said, it was easy to say, strong company. And unfortunately, their CEO, Pete, was shot And that was, of course, back in 2024. But nonetheless, the stock cratered after that because people were demonizing the company. In some cases, if they weren't covering insured claims and things like that, you can understand why people had a little less sympathy for the stock. They should always have sympathy for the family of that gentleman who was running the company because, I don't think any CEO deserves to be shot. But nonetheless, the stock had cratered down to 250 or 240, something like that. There you can see it on your screen. But today, it's back up and moving strong to the upside, Pete, as these earnings come in. Total revenue, $112 billion, which they were predicted basically to come in at 110.85, 110 billion and 85. This is a pretty significant beat. And so no wonder the stock is also seeing some pretty good guidance.
Yeah, and a 52-week high today, John, of 461. That's pretty damn impressive. Now, it's pulled off of that pretty extreme, but nonetheless, that's where it hit for the new highs. They crushed the earnings, just like we've been talking about. They crushed, as you just said, the revenue. They raised their full year. The earnings are now $19.50 up to $20. They were $18.75. So, again, they just seem to be clicking right now in the right way. And you know what? It's not a technology stock. It's not an energy stock. And yet here we got UNH, not too far over that direction, absolutely crushing it. So again, we look at these markets, we talk about the earnings season and how it's kicked off. And now we're into, week 2. It just continues, John, and UnitedHealth did not disappoint in anything that they put up. So impressive that it hit all the way up over to 461. It's pulled off of that, but nonetheless, when you look at this thing from a 1 year or year to date or whatever, they are in a good spot finally, which is a good thing because they really had some issues for a while there, and it looks like they're starting to come out of this thing pretty nice.
Right. Well, then let's shift gears yet again, Pete, and go on over to JB Hunt. And I bet most of you watching have seen a JB Hunt truck on the roads because these guys are logistics and transport, all that kind of stuff. They're also one of the biggest, consolidated freightways and things like that. JB Hunt, these are the big monsters in that space. And the company put up earnings per share of $1.91 against 173. Revenue was $3.5 billion. Very strong report, Pete. And obviously they move a lot of what we need. And their biggest cost is probably the fuel that it takes to move those trucks. So as the price came down dramatically in the quarter, I think that was one of the reasons that these guys were able to put up such good numbers.
Yeah, you're exactly spot on, John, especially about that energy side of it, of what they had to do. I mean, that's what puts it in there. You're talking about diesel energy, right? I mean, so intermodal services is something that really broke out for them in a great way, 32%. That's impressive, what they needed to do. You talked about the earnings, you talked about the revenue, all of which were big beats once again. Barclays put a 300 price target on this one. TD raised theirs as well. So strong demand, strong momentum. I would say that these guys are sitting pretty well. Now, the one thing you're going to watch, and you should be watching pretty closely, is it's gotten up there at 299 today. It hit a 52-week high. That's another stock, third in a row, by the way. Absolutely amazing to see how these things are moving to the upside. JB Hunt is certainly one of those that's very, very interesting. I know the demand is strong, but when you see the price of crude, like we were talking about right at the top, up at 80 again after being 68, that becomes a little bit of a problem. And that will be something that, we'll be watching pretty closely if you're interested in JB Hunt. But this is a great quarter for them as well. So it just continues on, John.
Yeah. Well, let's wind it up, Pete, with a space stock that's not Elon Musk.
Yeah.
ASTS, which is AST SpaceMobile. They announced pricing of about $1 billion of a 1.625 convertible senior note that goes all the way out to 2034, Pete. And the conversion price on that is set at about $79.50 a share, which would be a 20% premium over Wednesday's close. In other words, they said, okay, we're going to give people a note that goes out here we are, Pete, 2026. So let's call it roughly 8 years into the future. And you have a right to call the stock, or in other words, exercise that right. It's not an obligation, it's a right, at $79.57 a share. And it pays you 1.625%. Now, that percentage payment is pretty low, but the potential that you could exercise that and get a nice fat, if the stock's $200, you're still exercising it at $79.57. So this is a pretty strong bet to the upside, Pete, if indeed enough people buy it that they're able to raise that $1 billion.
Yeah, and you know what? The one concern that people seem to be having right now, John, which is why the stock is down there near, not at, but near the 52-week lows is, they're looking at this thing and they're concerned about dilution and all the rest of it. So understandable why it's down today, but I agree with you. I think this could be something into the future that could be something that could be pretty special, quite frankly. And then, they're also talking about why are they doing it? Well, they've got some ideas with partnerships, acquisitions, all that kind of thing that people are excited about. The implied volatility of this thing is not a joke. It's up there of around 100% in terms of the options. So is this thing volatile? Hell yes, this thing is volatile. Is it close to the 52-week lows? It's a heck of a lot closer to that than it is the 52-week highs. So you can understand both sides of this thing, but I kind of like the idea that given that time frame, John, it wasn't that long ago. This is a stock that was well over 100, well over 100 and a quarter. And so, given that, I think that some of these guys that decided that they want to do this, it could be something that really is valuable into the future. But you know what? It is into the future. So I guess we'll have to wait on that one. But they are in a situation where I think they're going to probably do some acquisitions. And they just needed the capital. Now they got $1 billion of capital in front of them.
Yeah, well, Rocket Lab, Pete, spent a ton of money, I think $7 billion or more for Iridium, which gave them, once the deal's completed, will give them a footprint globally for space communications. Do you know how long it would take you to get approval from all those different governments? And my answer would be forever.
Forever.
This one already has it. It's already been operating. And so Iridium, as we talked about multiple times because of unusual option activity, Rocket Lab decided, yep, we're going to spend, even though it's a big spend and a heavy lift, we're going to get it done because that makes us more valuable as a company. And I think perhaps not a $7 billion deal coming for ASTS, but they've probably got their eye on some companies to do some mergers and acquisitions as well, Pete. And,
absolutely,
that's why I like this one. A 1.625 convert with a $79.50 warrant, if you will, out there 8 years into the future. Okay, I'll buy that.
That could be a home run.
All right, let's wind up with sports, Pete, like we usually do. It is, again, the last Rebels Edge of the week, folks. So we always like sharing with you some of these. And I know if you're anybody who was watching FIFA World Cup yesterday, you saw Argentina come back just like they did against Egypt, Pete. You can't keep these guys down. And there's a lot of great players on that pitch, or for both teams.
Yeah,
Bellingham and Rory Kane and all these guys. There's great players for the UK as well as for Argentina. But one guy kind of stands out a lot, Pete. And he's the guy that put him over the top. Of course, Lionel Messi. So let's watch and listen to this.
Of Messi, bro, is something that I will truly never understand. Pay attention to this play. So here, Argentina, we're losing 1-0 with 5 minutes left on the clock. Lionel Messi gets the ball against JD Spence. At this point, any normal player would have simply put that cross in. Reason being is because you're in a 1v1 situation with JD Spence, but most importantly, because you have around 7 players in the box. But what Messi does, bro, proves that this guy is always thinking 2 steps ahead. Because as you can clearly see in this position, Anderson was standing at the edge of the box. box. If Messi had decided to play that ball a little too early to his teammate who was standing right in that position, DePaul, or even to Enzo Fernandez, then Anderson would have had an easier job to defend them. But you see, rather than crossing that ball or playing that ball back to DePaul or Fernandez, what Messi does is he waits. He makes time. He takes that 1v1 against JD Spence. What that does in this instance is it forces Anderson to think that Messi wants to take on JD Vance on a 1v1 situation. And what that forces him to do is to close the gap and help out JD Vance. As soon as Messi cuts inside, Anderson has already provided JD Spence the assistance by closing in the gap. But what that has inevitably done is that it has left Fernandez completely
Look at those
isolated.
guys.
By the time that Messi had forced both players to defend him, Enzo Fernandez is fully alone with so much time and space to hit that ball and place it at the back of the net. And this is perfectly what we see in this situation. He plays Enzo Fernandez that ball, and Enzo Fernandez, with the shot that he has, places it at the back of the net.
The goalie had no shot. He had no shot. He even guessed right, and he had no shot to get that shot. Well,
yeah. And then how about the one, Pete, the game winner, where he's over in this same part of the pitch. He's over on the far right side, and he dribbles the ball around a little and then launches it over the heads of every UK or England player, and then it gets headed in right as, extended time is close to ending. At the 92-minute mark or whatever. The guy is next level.
No guts, no glory, and he's got guts, especially how he paused, John, on that first one. That was amazing. And on the second one, now that's playing in their head. So they're like, well, is he going to do this again? And all of a sudden he starts sprinting and gives that kick over there with the head in. You know what? You and I ended up kind of enjoying the whole soccer world or whatever, or football anywhere else in the world. But yeah, lots of fun. So here's the question, John, is of all sports, who's the real GOAT of everything, of it all? Who's the highest ranking guy? Is it Tom Brady? Obviously, we all know the story behind him and all the Super Bowls and everything that Tom Brady has done. He's amazing. Michael Jordan, who to this day, I don't think there's anybody in basketball, and maybe one of the closer guys might have been, his favorite little young fella, that they were such good friends and all the rest of it. But Michael Jordan, head and shoulders, I think, above everybody. But then all of a sudden you throw into the mix, who's got the most pressure on them always to whether it's in Florida or back there in Argentina or whatever, who is it? And I got to tell you, if you look at that and you see all of what he has done in his career, by the way, 39 years old. So this guy's been doing this a long time, and he's still the best in the game, right? So
right.
I don't know. I think I tip the hat and say, you know what? I think Messi might be the biggest GOAT of all the GOATs. What do you think?
Yeah, he might be the king GOAT.
He could be.
All those guys you mentioned, Pete, Brady, Michael Jordan, deserve the accolades they get, just as Messi deserves it. But he's really a global sensation. Now, I do know that Michael and basketball is more of a global sport than football is with Brady. But nonetheless, those two are spectacular, and I don't think there's a debate about them being the GOATs of those sports. Right. But Messi, for a sport where you've got, we had 48 teams in this tournament, Pete, and you're 39 years old and you get all the way through to the finals, and you had a hat trick, on your way in there. And then against Egypt, you're down 2-0 and you come back and beat them 3-2 and so forth. I think this guy, not only does he handle the pressure, Pete, he seems to thrive on it.
He likes it.
Yeah, he likes it. He eats it like candy.
Exactly. All right. Next up, John, one real quick one. NFL, Baltimore Ravens. I've been looking at this for a while now. I give all the credit in the world to Lamar Jackson. I think this guy has done something that most players have never thought to do, which is represent yourself. He does not have an agent. His contract is outrageously good, and he's not having to share that with some agent anywhere, right? So he's been doing this, for a number of years, and his latest contract, John, and this is where it gets a little bit dicey, and I wonder about this for Lamar's sake. So his contract next year, 2027. Take a shot at how much he's going to get, Jon, next year under what it looks like right now. And basically the salary cap is a little north of 300 million. It'll go up again next year. It always does. But what do you figure it is, Jon? Do you think it's 50 million, 60 million? What do you think it is? Just as a guess, if you were to guess. You may have looked, but you might have.
I did not, Pete. So I know right now, more or less, Patrick Mahomes has that crazy contract. Does he deserve it? Hell yeah. Patrick Mahomes is just like Lamar Jackson, except he's got Super Bowl rings. Jackson doesn't. I think this could be, Pete, a deal where he has to restructure that contract, or his team is just not going to win.
Well, that's exactly where I was going too. $84.5 million is his contract next year. $84.5 million out of something north of 300. Let's say it's 325 million. It's still a huge chunk, right, that you've got with one player. The problem with that, as you were just basically talking about, is, hey, you know what? You still got to pay some offensive linemen. You want to have protection. You don't want to, get smacked in the back of your helmet by some big monster edge rusher like we saw when we were in Vegas at that whole, craziness of the sacks. I'll tell you, it's amazing to me. I think he's going to do it. I hope he's going to do it. And that's what made Tom Brady Tom Brady. And that's what these guys don't understand today. It's not just about them. It's not just about that contract. Hell, $84.5 million, he doesn't need to have that. And he could have a much different, outcome, I think, as a team if he pulls back, rejiggers his thing, and gets that all taken care of, and gets themselves offensive linemen if they need them. Maybe it's a running back because, you know what, how old is this running back going to be next year, and all the rest of it, injuries, all those things. If he doesn't redo his contract, Jon, unfortunately, I would have to say, you know what, that's kind of selfish. And you know what, I hope I'm wrong by saying that, but I think what I'm right on is he's a smart enough guy to maybe redo that contract next year to get the ability to maybe pay other guys to be on that team. Otherwise, he's just going for the money, and you know what? That's a bad look. And I'm hoping that I'm right, that he's not that guy.
Well, and in March, Pete, he did restructure some of it because, like you say, he basically reduced his $74 or $75 million down to 34.5. So he cut it in half in March. And that freed up like $40 million in cap space because they converted most of that base salary. So he didn't give up the money, but they converted it into a signing bonus. So it doesn't count for years and years into the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he's understanding, I think, that he can't be 25% of all of the payroll of the Ravens and still have them win. Because eventually you're going to have to cut players when their salaries come up and you pay them. You're going to have to cut somebody else. And again, there's a reason that, sadly, the Ravens have had one of the great defenses and have not been able to break through with Pittsburgh and all the rest that they have to deal with all the time. They can play them head to head. They can play the Bills, the Steelers, and all that. But they just haven't been able to get over the hump, Pete, because, quite frankly, they spent too much money on this one. And I blame the GM. I don't blame. And so at least they restructured part of his deal. They might have to do more next year. We'll see.
Yep. Should be interesting to see. I think he's a team player, so I think he will do it immediately. And he'll probably refer to, Brady and ask him, hey, what's the best way to do this whole thing? If he's represented himself, it's pretty interesting. He's a great kid, by the way. He really is. He's only 29 years old, for crying out loud. So what the hell?
Yeah, he's just a fabulous athlete and a great football player, and has not been a problem on or off the field.
Nope.
Some of these folks that are great football players, Stephon Diggs, have some issues.
Yes.
But this guy does not. And I'm glad he restructured part of the contract back in March. So there you go. All right. Well, Pete and I will be back Monday, folks. Pete, good luck at the funeral today. Do say hi to all of our Central High friends.
Yep.
I only wish Prince was going to be there to wave to you, but I'm sure you guys will have a lot of stories to tell next week after you share them today at the funeral and so forth. So
should be good.
To all of you, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday at what time, Pete?
1 p.m. Eastern time. Be there.
See you then.